First as history, then as sophistication. Cadre cigarettes, that smooth, bold flavor that helps you do the people's business. Enjoy Cadre cigarettes, sponsors of the Committee Program. And welcome to your alternate week content where we try to focus on culture. And this week, we are back to looking at the cinema with the show's deputy director, Julia Doubleday. Hello, Julia.
Hi. How's it going?
It's going good. The show's been going good. People have been wondering where you are, and I tell them that you agreed to be on the 4 cross-Atlantic crosstalks, and you even have accepted all of those, and that anything else has to be, quote-unquote, your idea. And this segment that we're going to do today is your idea.
Yeah.
Oh, and you just hinted at the idea with your expression. Why don't you tell the kids?
Unconsciously. Okay, so Ron and I have very different taste in movies. He went to film school, so he likes really slow, boring, plotting movies that make you feel important and sophisticated when you watch them. And I like movies that are actually entertaining. So we decided to do a show called Highbrow, Lowbrow, which in which I force him to watch a terrible movie. He forces me to watch a good movie, and then we talk about film together as two experts.
And I will say what would help me, and if we can get a graphic that's called like IT help and has our phone number on it, it would be great. If someone can explain to me why on Dropbox, when I say I want to be able to watch this offline, I can't watch it when I'm offline, that would be amazing, because this would really help the highbrow, lowbrow process. I was in the middle of the film when all of a sudden we were at a certain altitude on a flight that I was on, and I had to complete it in a different sitting, and I don't know if that were to alter my experience of said film. I don't think so.
Even just watching it on a plane is messed up. I mean, I would never have watched The Last Emperor on a plane. It's an insult.
So the two films in question are for Highbrow, 1987, Bernardo Bertolucci, famed Italian left-wing filmmaker, made The Conformist, several other movies. This is The Last Emperor. I think it was either nominated or won very many Academy Awards, which is usually not a sign of a good film. But unusually, anyway, no, I won't say anything more about it. That's one of the films. And the other film is, I actually didn't catch the director of it, but it is certainly a John C. Reilly, Judd Apatow vehicle, which is Walk Hard, 2007, a comedic music biopic. That sounds right,
Indeed.
Right? I think we're doing fine here.
It was directed by someone named Jake Kasdan. I don't know who that is.
It's almost as if they didn't think that part of the movie was part that had to be done well. But we'll find out. So let's watch the trailer to The Last Emperor, and we will deal with our highs before we go to our lows.
I have decided that you will be the new lord of 10,000 years. You will be the son of heaven.
At the age of 3, he ascended to the dragon throne. As a boy, he was the absolute ruler of Imperial China.
Stop! The Emperor will walk.
His life filled with sights and sounds no other human being on Earth could experience.
I think the Emperor is the loneliest boy on Earth.
I want a modern wife, Johnston, who speaks English and French, and who can dance the quick step.
As a man, he became its captive.
I do not want to escape anymore. I want to rule.
A victim of its violent history.
I
am accused of being a traitor, a collaborator, and a counter-revolutionary.
It is not an accusation.
A prisoner of his own power.
Do you think a man can become emperor again?
Yes.
The Japanese, they are getting closer to him every day.
He was Pu Yi, Lord of 10,000 years.
10,000 years!
The last Emperor. Bernardo Bertolucci's The Last Emperor.
It's funny how different decades have different, trailer voiceover guys. This guy was totally one of the 80s guys, and it's sort of hard to see the appeal in retrospect a bit, right? It's too sort of average American, but he sounds like the guy from the Reagan commercials even. It's like this very 80s earnest voice.
I like
it's this very
better than
earnest voice.
I like it better than the 90s, like
Don,
the low-
what's his name?
Yeah.
In a world.
Yeah,
In
that
a
guy.
world. Yeah.
It's very cheesy now in
So
retrospect.
this was the first choice. Obviously, it's going to be easy for me to pick something that you find instantly obnoxious, whatever. Why do you think The Last Emperor was the first kind of foray for the highbrow? I think that's a good place to start.
It's very political, historical. So I think you wanted to maybe pick something that had some kind of tie-in to the show. It wasn't just
That's true.
About film. Although I mean, a lot of film is political, like cinema.
I mean, it all is. It's a culture industry, right? Adorno
Indeed.
was right. Yeah.
Indeed. So I'm saying nothing, as usual. Okay, my answer. That's my answer.
Oh, no, and also
answer?
because, sometimes in the show we even watch these things that are like theoretical. It's like these montages. Like, don't you get it?
Yeah.
This is a very normal commercial feature film. People go places, do things. There's, an engaging plot. Music comes on in the parts that you would think. And it's sort of in that way, and it's not incredibly long. It seems like a very accessible movie. It's sort of,
Wait, this movie, it was pretty friggin' long. It was 2.5 hours. I guess that's average now.
Walk Hard was 2:12, so like.
No, it wasn't. I think it's like an hour and a half. Is
No,
it?
you would think that because that's the amount of time that it's funny
Hold
for.
on, I'm gonna
You're right
Google
about
it.
that. You have almost
That's
exactly
fair.
correct.
That's fair. That's a good burn.
I know, but I used it too early.
Yeah. Length of the film.
It's actually
2
1:59.
hours.
I looked it up
2
before.
hours,
Yeah.
yeah.
2 hours. Yeah. So what did you think of it?
Very beautiful.
Which is what
Great-
people say when they don't like films. By the way,
great
you always say
dresses.
you say like I love the cinematography.
Great
it was
dresses.
fantastic.
No, it was very, very beautiful. I mean, I felt, first of all, I learned a lot of stuff that as a host of a leftist podcast, I probably should have known about. But it was educational. So that's always something that I'm not looking for in my films. I felt smarter, more informed after I watched it. And I actually feel like I'm too smart already. So when I watch movies, I want them to actually
Take the edge off, not sharpen the edge.
Kill brain cells. So it was very challenging for me to watch. I watched it with my housemate. I made her watch it as well. We made a lot of popcorn. She also felt very educated afterwards. She's kind of insufferable now, to be honest.
One of the reasons that it reminds me of what you're saying that I thought it was good is because, and you and I have had conversations before, kind of in a lot of the knee-jerk kind of, and now, of course, there's a hot war, but anti-Russian culture stuff that has crept in through Russiagate all the way through this war, in which I don't think we're fighting a war against Tolstoy, but like here we are. Incredible at a time when the Cold War was still a real thing, in a really real way, and of course it is, as we see now in so many ways, to have a film come out that treats the Chinese communists so particularly delicately. Like, I can't imagine that even being entertained as an Oscar nominated thing to do anymore. Like, it's not even simply even just sort of maybe an emperor is a bad thing to have, which is an easy argument to make. It's sort of like the complexities of the cultural revolution even. Like, it really isn't afraid to sort of dive into the good and the bad of that as a complex tapestry instead of just, this is against the guy we like, these are the bad guys. It doesn't feel like that at all.
Well, I think you have to look at like the relationship between China and the US in the last like 20, 30 years. Like, at that time, we weren't viewing China as this major economic threat necessarily. It was more just a curiosity. So I think now, I mean, what would you say is sort of the attitude of Hollywood now toward China? Because I feel like it's almost non-existent. Like, it's more of a blackout policy than it is like a particular like painting of the Chinese as these big villains, which is interesting because going back to
Yeah,
the Cold
you would
War,
think. Yeah, sorry,
going
no,
back
please
to the
go
Cold
ahead.
War, there are Russians portraying the bad guys and like well beyond like anachronistically,
Absolutely.
well beyond like the fall of the USSR. Even when you get into like the early 2000s and stuff, I do think part of that decision was that directors and writers found it too potentially racially insensitive, or like they were worried
It's
about
charged
causing
in a different
controversy
way. Yeah.
by casting like Middle Eastern terrorists as the villain or whatever. So they just sort of continued to use this like Cold War era villain thing where it's like always an Eastern European or like Russian bad guy, like Die Hard style.
And when they can't do that, they make them Albanian because no one quite knows what to do
Albanian,
with
yeah.
that politically. And they're like, it's the Albanian
I can see
mafia,
that.
maybe. They're doing something. You're like, they want a nuclear weapon? Like, this doesn't make the movie make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But with China, yeah, we don't really see any sort of like Chinese.
They should be like the cyber villains in something if we're to believe the things that we hear, right? This
Sure,
would be like,
right.
you'd think that would be like a thing that Hollywood would
But
jump
isn't
at,
that
right?
almost?
Like, or,
I feel like that would almost be complimentary in a way if like they.
it's too
if
much
we
grudging
were to-
respect.
If we were to portray China as like some sort of technological superpower, whereas like the West likes to think of ourselves as that, right? Like capitalism creates innovation, and Elon Musk invents a bunch of bullshit that doesn't work, and we all get a new iPhone every year. Like that's our thing. So I don't think we want to assign that to China.
No, but also just in terms of the movie, like the journey, that the gentleman who was the last emperor of China goes on, kind of with the
Yes.
re-education and stuff. Also, it's like I also just can't imagine in our current dynamic that
He's like successfully re-educated, right? I mean, like he
Yes.
comes out
Like, he's
and
like, yeah, that was
like
messed up.
Yeah, he's like a good proletarian worker who's like gardening at the end.
No, and he cleans up in the Forbidden City and sort of honors that space because it's now the people's space, and and he is a subject in that same way. And I think that
Right. At the very
it's
end,
a
he's like the
really
janitor
it's
of
a
the
beautiful
Forbidden
kind of
City.
transformation. And I think also that's something that we're almost sort of forbidden from seeing, and you could never imagine. I get it, maybe the exotic thing you're saying so that it's safer and it was older. You could never imagine kind of a Russian agent being afforded this, even right immediately post World War II, when there was still this kind of détente before the freeze before the détente.
Yeah. No, I am actually surprised it won a lot of Oscars.
I know and it's funny because it's horrible, the kind of the way, I don't want to call it, I sound like an old man, but like digital meme, whatever sort of fanfic culture all has come together for liberals around like politicians, whether that be like them imagining Kamala Harris and Barack Obama and Joe Biden all hanging out. They're now kind of importing this onto like world politics through the lens
for
of this
sure.
war
For
in a
sure.
way that becomes an incredible mess to even start to deconstruct. We're talking about trying to deconstruct these films, trying to deconstruct like the memes around what people think Zelensky is doing, is becoming just a real cultural minefield. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Avengers have created major brainworms for a lot of people, liberals and conservatives, and they also kind of like embody. I feel like the Avengers really embody, even though like there's a lot of like proto-fascist stuff in there, like it also embodies this like very centrist, non-threatening politics, right? Of like all of the good guys coming together to fight all of the bad guys, and that very generic idea is sort of being like projected onto any kind of conflict, domestic
yes.
and international. Like if you see like
It is a good hammer
people
for
will
any
use-
nail.
Exactly, because it's so generic. But the important ingredients in the soup, right, are like there's a good guy and there's a bad guy, and like that is the lens through which most Americans view the world and any conflict. So that includes, actually, I think a lot of people on the left, like we've been talking about, like there's been this, I wouldn't say exactly reluctance, although definitely reluctance among some people to acknowledge that like Russia is doing imperialism or doing something bad. And I do think that's overblown by the centrists, that's like a major problem on the
just
left.
all
Like,
aggression had to be defined as imperialism is an interesting academic talk, but I mean, I think we
Right.
can all agree that there is an aggression thing.
Right. No, what I'm saying is that the reluctance on the left is being exaggerated by the centrists. So I think that prior to the war, there was reluctance to assume that the U.S. intelligence community was being honest with us because, and myself included, like, I don't believe any shit they have to say. I don't feel bad for that. I think that that's like a boy who cried wolf.
You've come by it
that
honestly.
They themselves created. So next time, try not lying to us for 40 years and see if we listen to you. But even, aside from that, I think that there are leftists who need there to be a good guy. Like, for the U.S. to be a bad guy, there needs to be a good guy. The same way
will
with
be assigned
liberals,
to whoever,
for the Russians to be bad, we have to be good. Like, there is this binary thinking where it's just not possible to root for no one. It's just not possible to just root for, like, no war but the class war. It's not possible, especially, like, looking back at Syria, we see kind of like a it's like the predecessor to the Ukraine conflict. And in Syria, it was the same thing. It was like everybody had to either decide, are you with these groups?
You're ISIS or Assad.
Many of whom are aligned with the Islamic State. Do we align with the Islamic State or do we align with Assad? And I don't know why I'm constantly being asked to make that choice, as if like
it is not a healthy
that's
choice.
up to me and that there's a good answer. There can be no good answer. That can happen because life isn't the Avengers.
It's funny you talk about the Avengers sort of being you said immediately this sort of strange combination of both the fascistic but then also the kind of bland liberalness. And I would say, because we already mentioned his name once, and when you say it once like a vampire, he comes in, it's Adorno. One of his things was that he said that fascism itself was like its basic cause is liberal democracy. Like, it is just a constant threat specifically from liberal democracy, like exactly the specificness of what fascism is. They are locked together. There is always a danger of fascism inside every democracy specifically to him.
Well, sort of. I don't know if I agree
Maybe
with
the
that
Avengers
exactly.
embody both sides of it, though.
I think I agree with the idea that liberalism under capitalism with no class analysis inevitably begets fascism. Like, there's no way for it not to ultimately sort of like crumble into fascism, because over time, all of these contradictions, all the contradictions collapse, and over time, without any sort of
greater,
without any sort of understanding of the role of class or what oligarchy is or how you cannot have democracy if democracy is more available to people with more money and less available, and there's less democracy for people with less money. Like, that is not democratic. Like, the kind of democracy we have is not democratic. In a democratic society, rich people don't have more democracy and poor people don't have less democracy. That's what we have. So that specific liberal, democratic, capitalist society, yes, ultimately will fall to fascism.
Yeah, and so the other kinds of autocracy may come out of different kinds of ways, but this specific kind of marriage of capital and intolerance, he would say. We had a great discussion, and I hate to stop it, but like otherwise we wouldn't do the lowbrow.
Let's do the lowbrow, and then we're gonna talk about talk about them together.
I don't want to do that to the Last Emperor, kind of. I think we should just consider this on its own merits.
That's the entire point of the segment. I'm sorry, but I specifically chose a biopic so that we could do that.
Is that true?
We're going to talk about biopics, yeah. I want to talk about biopics.
All right. Hey, how come I can't find the thing I need to find now?
The Walk Hard trailer. I don't know if I've ever seen it, so I can't really vouch for this.
Hey, you know who else didn't see it? You know who else didn't see this trailer? Is the person who cut this trailer. Everyone tell me if this person watched the film or not.
Mr. Cox? Mr. Cox.
Give him a minute, son. Dewey Cox needs to think about his entire life before he plays.
From the time he was a boy.
Ain't no 6-year-old understand the true meaning of the blues.
I reckon I might.
I done a bad thing. Cut my brother in half. Not bad for your first time.
The music of Dewey Cox
Take my hand.
has had an effect on people.
It's the devil's music.
From the guy who brought you Talladega Nights and Superbad.
I've got to give up this dream. You're never gonna make it.
And maybe you don't believe in me after all.
I do believe in you. I just know you're gonna fail.
Columbia Pictures presents The Epic Journey.
Walking to the top of a mountain ain't easy. It's a long, hard walk. But I will walk hard.
Of the man who became a legend.
Walk hard. The Beatles want to hang out, so I'm going to go do that.
With meditation, there's no limit to what we can imagine.
This Christmas.
I'm leaving you.
You can take the children, but you leave me, my monkey.
When it comes to music.
I ain't good enough to follow Elvis. There's two things you need to know. I'm the king, and number two is look out, man. You see how close I came to your head? I can chop a man in half. I'm guilty as charged.
No legend is bigger than Cox.
You met my new wife, Cheryl Cox T. Thanks, Buddy Holly. What do you think, George Harrison?
The one, the only, Dewey Cox.
And thank you, Eddie Vedder.
Walk hard.
What happened to you, Dewey?
I don't know, but I know what happened to you.
Patrick Duffy took a beating. Walk hard.
My life has been blessed, from my singing to my family to my sausage. It doesn't say Cox unless I say it tastes like Cox.
So
Great.
I do think it is a story of a man who re-educates himself, becomes a straight walking family man after certainly going through a lot of hard times. I don't think we have to summarize the plot too much. I do enjoy music. I do enjoy the 20th century. I do enjoy music biopics.
I think the music is very...
I do enjoy satire. The music is all very good. The performances are all very good. I can see why you picked this. A lot of the jokes are very, very funny. You can say that I'm like leading up to a thing,
Yeah.
Before I finish the thing,
dryly.
why don't I even bring up my two favorite moments? Because I don't think they were in the trailer. My two favorite moments, because I think the comedy in this film was really good when it was small. And when it was small is when it was really just informed by the performance. One would be the mother when she says, "We're going to light a candle tonight," because she's so, it's like she inhabits that line.
That's
with
Margot
a
Martindale,
lot.
the best character actress.
She's just, like in BoJack or whatever. That's
yes,
her.
She's in BoJack.
She's fantastic.
It's that lady, yeah.
She knows
she's
what
the
she's
one.
doing. She knows how to create behavior. That's it. And then the bandmate who, when they swapped wives, was like with the other one and was like, "Hi." That's a hard scene to kind of like do the hi, and like he really, you know what I mean? It was like ambivalent, and it was hard, and like he did it, and he really like was like, I'm gonna really like, they're probably gonna cut this, like, because it's not like, because he didn't realize that they weren't gonna cut anything, and that, as I said before, is the fact that there's two things I want to say about this that are sort of negative though. Before I turn it over to you to like refute them or whatever, and I think it's fine. I think it's fine as far as it goes, but it falls into this genre of comedy, which is, since vaudeville. I mean, who am I to say this is wrong?
Very broad.
It's just how many like laughs a minute, you can get, which is fine as far as it goes, except that versus the modern cinema means we have about 45 minutes of movie that's like just plot and not comedy. It's just like, now we're going to have an emotional scene about something. And these are really good performers. So there are whole scenes where like the dialogue is just like it would be from a Lifetime movie, except that they're like letting you know they're faking it. And that works once, that works twice, but it's sort of the last 35 minutes of the movie. But having said that, there is this really, dead period in the movie. The film absolutely, through the brilliance, and this is both the writing and the performance, earns all of its climaxes, from the machete fight, which is a callback to folks who haven't seen the film. The beginning, the tragedy of Dewey Cox's life is that he slices his brother in half with a machete, which happens in a machete fight. This is why you shouldn't let your kids go outdoors, and certainly not to the countryside. All right? Mao was not right about this if you didn't learn anything else in The Last Emperor. All right? A lot of things, very wise. This is not one of them. Also, the comeback. It was too many comebacks. He didn't need to do the Elvis comeback. He should have just done the one, and we should have seen more of the rapper. Because in the scene with Shania Twain and Lyle Lovett and the other one who's the country something, they were like, and then he comes in. I was like, I want more of this character. I want to know where he's from. I want to know what he does. I want to hang out with him. Like, I want to know their blossoming friendship. And the reason I think they felt the need to do this Elvis one is my main problem with the film, and that's my problem with another film. So maybe that's not fair, but which is Forrest Gump syndrome, which is through sheer nostalgic recognition of something. I expect that to do the work for me instead of actual plots and jokes, right? Like, oh, even in the trailer, like, that's George Harrison, that's Elvis. The guy who was Elvis didn't look like Elvis, but I thought he did a great job. I thought he was a great Elvis.
He captured the vibe.
No, he got the je ne sais everything. Yeah.
That was Chris Parnell, I think.
It could be. I don't know. I don't see actors. I see characters. Everybody created behavior.
It's like all SNL. It was a lot of SNL.
I saw characters because people did a great job creating characters. I saw characters everywhere.
Okay.
But yeah, no, this sort of name check kind of 20th century, let's go through all the things we're supposed to do and just enjoy that we get the references. I'm going to say on Buddy Holly 5 times. Like, that joke, again, was funny once, twice, 3 times, but not 10, 12, 13 times when they had stuff that they could do that were original ideas, right? Like this kind of like new...
Okay, have you actually seen Walk the Line, which is what this movie is?
Yeah. No, it's picking a lot of it from, but not all of it.
I mean, yeah, like they're parodying these
the
things
scene,
that
like with the father
like.
And stuff. But no, but these other things. No, but these other things, it's like the Beatles and Buddy. This is all very specific. Like, you know, they're going through the thing, and then Elvis's comeback special is not Johnny Cash; it's Elvis's comeback special.
Right, but I think like in Walk the Line and in a lot of these biopics, it's like they constantly do that, and so they're replicating something. We can't leave that
I get
out.
it. I get it. It's just
you can't leave that out. It's like it's spoon feeding the audience, which is
for instance, though,
in these biopics
he didn't need to do 2
serious.
of these things, right? He should have had the one comeback special, and instead of being the Elvis in Hawaii ripoff, it should have been the one that he had at the end.
But
and that would have made the movie half hour shorter, which could have been okay.
But I also think you're getting at why I find biopics almost universally like weirdly
the kind of forced nostalgia, like
paced.
Manufactured consent.
No. I'm saying weirdly paced and overlong by at least 30 minutes it's like
a hallmark
in
of all of them.
In the bones of biopics, and here's why I think it is. It's exactly because of the thing I was talking about in the prior conversation, which is that we are so used to movie stories where there is a good guy, a bad guy, there's a conflict, and then at the end the good guy triumphs, or it's a dark movie, the bad guy triumphs, and we all learn not to be cynical about the world or whatever. But a biopic, which is supposed to go from birth to death about a human life, there is never that sort of neat structure to it. So the filmmaker tries to impose that structure onto a story that ultimately ends in someone's death, which is not like a super uplifting ending.
Totally. Which is silly because that's not the narrative, right? In the work that we do at committee, right? Defining a politician's narrative or whatever, right? It's like pulling something out that's not just the biography, because biography is not destiny and it's not always even interesting.
People's lives are too long for them to have one major conflict or 2 major conflicts, and then it shows them overcoming that, and then their lives are over. And I mean, you can see this in The Last Emperor as well. It's kind of fucking long, and there are several comebacks of the Emperor. And I think this is just the reality of how people's lives.
I mean, there's multiple world wars. You know what I mean? It's going to be an extra chapter.
Exactly. Like, it's got to be an extra chapter. We're going from what, like 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I forget when the movie ends exactly. Maybe like early 2000s up to present day. So they're trying to incorporate all of these different social and political events into the background of this life story, and that's like very typically done in these biopics. So I think it's hard to draw the line in this movie between the things you're complaining about are those.
It's endemic to this genre of satire, and I feel like people who are the greats at it manage to put the messaging in everything that they do. Yeah. Even like you hear, I think it was Larry David was talking about, like, if you can't think of a funny reason for the scene to exist, then like the scene probably shouldn't exist. And I feel like that could have been applied more rigorously here. To be honest, I saw that Judd Apatow and someone else wrote it, And I feel like he had like one really good day writing this and then passed it off. Someone was like, can you just write the bullshit? Like that finishes the movie because it's like pretty obvious what's supposed to happen. And like, I'm busy and I'm Judd Apatow. And that's kind of how it feels.
I don't think he was that busy in 2009.
Yeah, but these people don't ever finish their movie. It wasn't like, they all got together.
Is that
I feel
true?
Like. Because I don't know. I have no idea. It's just like
nobody ever finishes.
It's just
movie?
All of the things were so all of the jokes were so front loaded, especially from the trailer, right?
I agree that like the first half of the movie is much stronger.
John C. Reilly is fantastic. I didn't mention him yet.
Good.
He's fantastic.
So good.
He's fantastic.
And has he actually what other movie? He's so often like a character actor.
He's
or
always the extra guy. He's always the extra guy. It was nice to see. I hope this did well for him.
He was good in
say
Chicago. But like, has there been another film where he's just straight up like the?
Has he been used as like a dramatic actor yet? Because he does have one of those faces. You could see him getting how they love to give comedians awards when they play things.
100% has been in. Well, I was saying he was in Chicago. That was kind of a funny movie and kind of a funny role, but I wouldn't say that was a comedy. Like he's real he's acting
chops,
like acting.
The theater.
He's great in it. He's really great in it. I mean, his role's kind of sad. He's like the husband of Roxy. Have you seen Chicago?
Yeah.
Mr. Cellophane.
They actually do a great. It's based on these stories that are actually this radio gangster stories that are super good. With this one guy who's got this crazy voice. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I could be wrong, but I feel like wasn't John C. Reilly first a dramatic actor who then started doing comedy stuff? Am I making that up?
I don't know. We'll look that up. We'll look that up.
We'll look that up.
And do a correction next time.
I feel like he might be like a John Hamm type, where like they finally more the opposite.
Don't lump
case
him
where
in with John Hamm.
They finally let him do some comedy, and they were like, oh, don't go back. This is good.
This is working.
Like
this is working.
This is working.
Yeah.
He was great. Kristen Wiig, great. Like almost underutilized, but I feel like actually the perfect amount because more of it, she's incredibly like broad character, and like more of it probably would have been too much. But I really like that they made fun of the thing they always do in biopics, which is as soon as possible. They didn't do this in The Last Emperor, actually, I don't think. They did a very good job with all the aging up and all of that stuff. But in a lot of these, they have the adult actor who's like 45 years old. As soon as they turn like 12, they're playing the character. So when he is 14 playing at the high school and Kristen Wiig is supposed to be 12 and they just keep having to say their ages over and over again. It's like,
again,
I feel
like
his 12-year-old girlfriend.
In the 90-minute version of this movie, they would have done that joke twice instead of 5 times. So do you have anything picked out for next time that we should tell folks so they can prepare, or are we going to surprise everyone?
I mean, I don't. Should we maybe pivot more to like the horror side?
You pivot to horror. Let's both pivot to horror. I will pick what I consider to be a high. We'll both pick what we consider a highbrow one that I think is interesting, and you pick a lowbrow horror you think is interesting.
Okay. Mine will probably have like giant.
You have a couple weeks. We do like this in like 3 or 4 week cycles, so it's like not for a month.
Cool. I'm just thinking of all the bad horror movies I know.
Okay, well everyone, thank you so much for joining us, and we will get to you next time with some highbrow, and then you say lowbrow.
Lowbrow.
Nice.